Geothermal isn't just energy out here. It is the only heartbeat left on a planet that stopped breathing. I am Kyle Thorne, 37, geothermal engineer. I came to this research station in the Nevada high desert because I was good with systems and terrible with people. The station sits at 2,400 meters, built over a thermal anomaly that made it valuable to researchers and irrelevant to everyone else. In summer, surface temperatures hit 48 Celsius. In winter, they drop to -25. The only constant is the heat beneath 300 degrees Celsius. 2 kilometers down, channeled through pipes I maintained alone. I had been here 8 months when the world ended, long enough to understand the systems, not long enough to miss human contact. The station was designed for a crew of 12. I was the only one who had shown up for the winter rotation. The previous team had left in September, citing budget cuts and reorganization priorities. They had stripped the place, took the good computers, the spare parts, most of the food stores, left me with the essentials, the turbine, the heat exchangers, the water reclamation system, and a radio that barely reached Ellie, 60 miles west. I didn't mind. The solitude was why I had taken the posting. After the divorce, after watching every relationship I had tried to build collapse under the weight of my inability to prioritize people over problems, I had accepted what I was: an engineer, someone who understood pressure differentials and thermal efficiency better than I understood why my ex-wife had needed me to remember our anniversary. The station made sense. It had rules, variables I could measure. When something broke, I could fix it. When something failed, I knew why. No ambiguity, no emotional calculus. It was the 8th of November when the radio transmissions changed. I was in the subsurface chamber 2 levels down, where the main heat exchanger converted thermal energy to electricity when the emergency broadcast started. Not the test signal, the real thing. Automated voice, clipped and professional. Civil authorities advise all citizens to shelter in place. Avoid contact with animals exhibiting aggressive behavior. Boil all water before consumption. Await further instruction. I climbed the ladder to the main level. The control room had a better radio, one with more range. I tried the standard channels. Commercial stations were off air. Emergency frequencies were chaos voices talking over each other. Reports of attacks, something about contamination. Then the power grid failed. Not ours. The station ran on geothermal, but the grid, the infrastructure connecting Las Vegas, Reno, Salt Lake City, it just stopped. I watched the seismograph that monitored grid frequency, 50 hertz, then 45, then 30, then flatline. I tried calling Ellie static, tried the satellite phone. No connection. The GPS was still working, which meant the satellites were up, but the ground stations that routed calls, gone. I went outside. November in the high desert meant cold already below freezing at sunset. The station sat on a plateau, surrounded by scrub and rock and distance. To the east, I could see the lights of Ely, except there were no lights, just darkness where a town should be. And on the horizon, a glow, green-blue, unnatural, like aurora borealis but wrong, too low, too steady. I had seen ionization effects before, knew what radiation looked like when it hit atmosphere. This was worse. I went back inside, sealed the airlock. The station had a positive pressure system, filtered air pumped in, contaminated air pumped out. I activated it, locked the exterior hatches, checked the seals. Then I sat down at the control panel and realized I had no idea what I was preparing for. The first week was routine. I maintained the systems, monitored the turbine, kept the water flowing. The radio stayed dead. I tried different frequencies, different times of day. Nothing but static and occasional bursts of automated warnings that didn't tell me anything useful. Food was a problem. The previous crew had left maybe 3 months' worth of freeze-dried supplies. I rationed carefully 2 meals a day. No snacks. The water was infinite geothermal condensate, pure and clean. But calories were finite. I made lists, calculated consumption rates, projected survival time. The numbers were clear. I could last until February, maybe March if I pushed it. The cold was worse than I had expected. The station's heating system was designed for a full crew generating body heat, cooking meals, moving through spaces. With just me, the temperature inside dropped to 10 degrees Celsius. I wore layers, down jacket over fleece over thermal base. Slept in the control room near the turbine where the heat bled through the floor. On day 9, the pack rats came. I heard them first, scratching in the walls. Then, in the ductwork, I would dealt with rodents before standard desert hazard. But these were different. Larger, more aggressive. And they had figured out that the heat exchangers were warm. One of them chewed through an insulated cable. The temperature alarm went off at 0300. I climbed down to the subsurface chamber with a flashlight and a wrench. Found the damage. The rat was still there. Dead. Electrocuted by the exposed wire. It was the size of a small dog. 20 pounds, maybe. Eyes too big, teeth too long. The fur was patchy, skin underneath gray and wrong. I threw the carcass outside, repaired the cable, went back to bed. They came back the next night. And the next, I started setting traps. Killed 6 in 3 days. Then they stopped coming. I didn't know if I had eliminated them, or if they had just found easier targets. The temperature dropped to -15. The station's water intake was a well drilled into the aquifer. The pipes were insulated but not heated. I had to run circulation pumps constantly to keep them from freezing. That is when I saw it. Through the window in the airlock door, someone standing in the snow. Just standing. Not moving. I grabbed the binoculars, focused. It was a person, definitely human. Wearing a parka and snow pants, standing about 50 meters from the station facing me. I watched for 10 minutes. They didn't move, didn't wave, just stood. I tried the external speaker. If you need help, approach the airlock slowly. They turned, started walking not toward me. Away into the desert, into the dark. I watched until they disappeared. Couldn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about the way they had moved, too steady, too purposeful, like they had been measuring something. The next morning, I found boot prints in the snow. A circle around the station, exactly 50 meters out. Someone had been surveying the perimeter. On day 14, someone knocked on the airlock door. I was checking the turbine routine maintenance, looking for wear on the impeller blades when I heard it. Metal on metal, rhythmic, weak. I climbed up, looked through the portal. A person collapsed against the door, face down. Not moving. I didn't open it. Protocol said maintain quarantine. Protocol said verify identity. Protocol said a lot of things that assumed a functioning chain of command. The person moved, lifted their head, face partially visible, female mid-40s, frostbite on the cheeks, eyes tracking me through the glass. She mouthed something. I couldn't hear through the door, but I could read lips. Please. I ran the math. Opening the airlock meant exposure, meant risk, meant another mouth to feed from finite supplies. The smart choice was clear. I opened the door. She fell through when the pressure equalized. I caught her, dragged her inside, sealed the hatch. She was hypothermic. Core temperature, maybe 33 degrees. Another hour outside and she would be dead. I stripped her wet outer layers, got her into dry clothes, my spare thermals, too big but warm. Wrapped her in blankets, put her near the turbine, made hot water with dissolved electrolyte powder she drank. Slowly, hands shaking, Thank you, she said, voice rough. I am Leor Vance. Kyle, I know. Saw your name on the station manifest. I was heading to Ellie when everything happened, been walking for 3 days. From where? Ruby Lake. I am a hydrologist. Was studying aquifer recharge rates. She looked around the station. This place still works. Everything works. Geothermal doesn't need the grid, Lucky. She drank more water. You alone was. She nodded, closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. I went back to the control room, stared at the supplies inventory. 3 months for 1 person. 6 weeks for 2. The math was simple, but math didn't account for the fact that I had just saved someone's life, and now I was responsible for keeping them alive. I didn't sleep that night. Just watched the temperature gauges and wondered if I had made a mistake. Leah recovered fast. By the 2nd day, she was walking. By the 3rd, she was asking questions about the systems. She understood hydrology, knew how water moved through rock and soil. The station's well system made sense to her. You are pulling from a confined aquifer, she said, looking at my poorly drawn schematic. That is why the water stays liquid at depth. Pressure keeps it from flashing to steam, right? But the intake is shallow, 15 meters. Deep enough to avoid surface contamination, shallow enough that I can maintain the pump. What is your flow rate? 50 liters per Dalton Y, more than I need. For 1 person, what about 2? I didn't answer. She already knew. That night, she told me what she had seen on her walk from Ruby Lake. Animals, she said. Moving wrong, aggressive. I saw a coyote attack a deer, not hunting, just attacking, like it was angry. And the birds, they are gone. All of them. Just gone. Migration. In November. To where? She shook her head. Something's wrong with them. The ones I saw that weren't dead were sick, tumors, lesions. Eyes clouded over. Radiation. Maybe. Or toxins. Or a pathogen. I don't know. She looked at me, but I know this. We are not safe out there. Not anymore. The temperature dropped to -25 that week. The heating system struggled. I had to vent steam directly into the living quarters to keep the temperature above freezing. It was inefficient, wasteful. But the alternative was hypothermia. The pack rats came back, bigger this time. More aggressive. They had figured out the traps. I found 1 dead in a snare with 3 others eating it. When I approached, they didn't run. Just looked at me, calculating. I shot them. The rifle was old, .22 caliber, left behind by the previous crew. Low power but accurate. I killed all 3, threw the bodies outside. The next morning, they were gone. Something had dragged them away. The snow around the station was marked with tracks. Large tracks, canine maybe, or feline. Hard to tell. Leor saw them too. We need to seal the ventilation system. We need ventilation. Then we need filters. Better ones. And we need to start thinking about defense against what? She looked at me like I was being deliberately stupid. Against whatever killed those rats. We spent 3 days retrofitting the ventilation. Leor designed a filtration system using mesh from the spare parts storage. I fabricated housing from sheet metal. It wasn't perfect, but it reduced the openings to the outside from 12-inch ducts to 1/4-inch mesh. While we worked, Leor talked about her life before, about the research she had been doing, about her family in California, a sister, a nephew, parents she hadn't spoken to in years. You married, she asked. Was kids number lucky? I didn't respond. Didn't know if she meant lucky to be divorced or lucky to not have children I couldn't protect. The first fever hit on day 23. I woke up shivering, couldn't get warm despite the layers. Leor took my temperature 39 degrees. Just a cold, I said. In a sealed environment with perfect climate control, She looked skeptical. When did you last go outside? Yesterday, checking the thermal well. Any cuts, scratches? I looked at my hands. There was a scrape on my palm, small, maybe 3 centimeters. I would caught it on a piece of corroded pipe infection, Lior said. You need antibiotics. I don't have antibiotics. Then you need to sterilize it. Now. She heated a knife blade in the turbine exhaust until it glowed. Held my hand steady, cut away the infected tissue. I bit down on a rag. Didn't scream, but it was close. She packed the wound with antibiotic ointment from the first aid kit. Wrapped it tight. That might not be enough. She was right. The fever got worse. 40 degrees. 41. I was hallucinating by the second day, seeing Chen and Davis from my old fire crew, seeing my ex-wife, seeing things that couldn't be real. Lior kept me hydrated, kept the wound clean, monitored my temperature every 2 hours. On the third day, the fever broke. I woke up weak, dehydrated, but conscious. Welcome back, Lior said. How long? 72 hours. You were gone. I looked at my hand. The wound was healing, clean edges. No infection. You kept me alive. Someone had to. It was the closest either of us came to acknowledging what that meant. That survival here wasn't solitary. That I couldn't do this alone. The snow started melting in late December. Temperature swings in the desert were brutal, -20 at night. +10 during the day. The thermal mass of the station moderated it. But outside, the freeze-thaw cycles were destroying everything. The roads were impassable. Asphalt cracked and heaved. Vehicles abandoned along highway. 93 were half buried in debris from collapsed overpasses. We saw them through the binoculars. Cars, trucks, RVs, dozens of them, all empty, all silent. Where did they go? Lior asked. Same place the birds went. The rattlesnakes showed up when the temperature hit 15 degrees. I saw the first one basking on the south side of the station, 4 meters long, as thick as my leg. It shouldn't have been active. Snakes went dormant below 10 degrees. But this one was hunting. I watched it strike at a pack rat. Saw the venom take effect in seconds. The rat convulsed, stopped moving. The snake didn't eat it, just struck again and again, like it was testing its capability. We need to stay inside, I told Lior. We need water. The well pump is overheating. She was right. The pump was old, running at capacity, cycling constantly. It needed maintenance, which meant going outside. We suited up, heavy boots, thick gloves. I carried the rifle. Lior carried a machete we had fashioned from a piece of steel strapping. The pump housing was 50 meters from the main building. The well head was another 10 meters. We would have maybe 5 minutes outside before the cold became dangerous. We made it to the pump. I opened the housing. The bearings were worn, grinding metal on metal. I needed to replace them, but the spare parts were back in the station. I will go, Lior said. You know which bearings? Cabinet 3, marked PM17. She ran. I watched her go, watched the desert, saw movement in the rocks. The snake came from behind. I heard it first, the rattle. Turned, it was already striking. I jumped. Not fast enough. Fangs caught my calf, tore through the fabric. I felt the pressure, the heat, then nothing. I shot it. 3 rounds. Center mass. It coiled. Struck again. I shot it twice more. It stopped moving. Lior came back running. Saw the snake, saw my leg. How bad? Bad. She helped me back to the station. Got me inside, cut away my pants. The wound was swelling already. 2 punctures, deep. Venom spreading through the tissue. We need to extract it. Number, That doesn't work, just makes it worse. She looked at me. Then, what do we do? Keep me hydrated, monitor vitals. Hope I don't die. I didn't die, but I came close. The venom attacked the blood cells, caused massive internal bleeding. I was urinating blood by the second day, vomiting blood by the third. Lior kept me alive, gave me IV fluids she had made from purified water and dissolved minerals, kept the wound elevated, monitored my kidney function through urine analysis. You are going to lose the leg, she said on day 4. Number, the tissue is necrotic. If we don't amputate number, she didn't argue. Just kept changing the dressings, kept me hydrated, kept me breathing. On day 7, the swelling started going down. The wound was still infected, but the necrosis had stopped spreading. I could move my toes. You are lucky, Lior said. I know, but I wasn't lucky. I was alive because someone had stayed, had made the hard calls, had done the things I couldn't do for myself. People started showing up in January. First was a kid, maybe 17. Skinny, wearing 3 jackets. He knocked on the airlock at dawn. Lior wanted to let him in. I said no. He is a kid. He is a resource drain. He is a kid, Kyle. I looked at him through the portal. He was shivering, fingers blue with frostbite. He had died outside in 6 hours, maybe less. I opened the door. His name was Caleb. He had walked from Ely. Took him 5 days. He was sick, fever, cough, maybe pneumonia. Lior got him warm, got him dry, fed him soup made from freeze, dried rations and melted snow. How many people left in Ely? I asked. Maybe 20. Most left when the supplies ran out. Some went to Reno. Some went to Vegas. I don't know if they made it. Why would you leave? He looked at his hands. Things got bad. People were fighting. Over food. Over water. Someone burned down the grocery store. And you walked here. I heard about the station. Thought maybe you would have power. Heat. Something. We did. But for 3 people, the food would last maybe 5 weeks. For 4, maybe 3. The second person arrived 2 days later. Woman, mid-50s, walked from a ranch 20 miles north. Her name was Anne. She brought nothing except her clothes and a dog, a border collie named Scout. Then came 2 more brothers. Early 20s. They had been prospecting for gold when everything collapsed. Stayed in their claim until the cold drove them out. By mid-January, we had 8 people in a station designed for 12. The food situation was critical. We would last maybe 3 weeks. Water was fine. The well produced enough for 20 people. Power was fine. The turbine ran constantly. But calories were the limiting factor. Lior organized a rationing system. 2 meals a day. Everyone got the same portion based on body weight and activity level. The kid, Caleb, got extra. He was still growing. Anne got less. She was sedentary. Spent most of her time repairing clothes and managing the dog. I focused on the systems. The turbine needed constant maintenance. The heat exchangers were fouling from mineral buildup. The ventilation filters needed changing weekly, and the temperature was climbing. January in the desert meant daytime highs approaching 20 degrees. The station's cooling system wasn't designed for year-round use. We had to start venting heat at night to keep the interior below 30 degrees. That is when the scorpions showed up. They came through the ventilation, small at first, 2 centimeters, normal size, then bigger, 5 centimeters, 10. We found one in the water reclamation tank. 15 centimeters translucent, glowing slightly in the dark. Caleb got stung reaching for a tool. The venom hit him in seconds. Paralysis. Respiratory failure. We intubated him with a piece of flexible tubing and kept him breathing manually for 6 hours until the paralysis wore off. After that, we sealed everything. Every pipe, every duct, every crack. The station became a fortress. We only went outside to maintain the well and check the thermal vents. The pack of dogs arrived in February. Not scout wild dogs, maybe 20 of them. Former pets gone feral. Some had collars, some had tags. They circled the station at dusk, testing the perimeter. Scouts smelled them, started barking. The pack responded, came closer. I watched through the window. One of the dogs had a name tag. Bailey, someone's pet, someone's family member. Now hunting in a pack, they attacked at night. Hit the ventilation openings, tore at the mesh. I went outside with the rifle, shot 3 before they scattered. The next night they came back, and the next, I killed 2 more. Then they stopped coming, but I had seen their eyes, intelligent, planning. They were learning. The first transmission from the restoration forces came in late February. I was monitoring frequencies when I heard it. Professional, clear, male voice. Attention all survivors in the Great Basin region. This is Vex Kendrick, Federal Emergency Management Agency. We are establishing resource coordination centers. If you have access to water, power, or shelter, respond with your coordinates. We are working to consolidate survivor groups and maximize resource efficiency. Lior was listening. That is FEMA. They are organizing. Maybe. What does that mean? It means someone with authority is trying to rebuild. But authority doesn't always mean good. You don't trust them. I don't know them. But I responded anyway. Gave our coordinates, our capabilities, our population. Vex's response came back within an hour. Geothermal facility confirmed. Excellent. We will establish contact within 7 days. Prepare to receive a delegation. Stand by for instructions regarding resource integration. Resource integration. The words sat wrong. Lior heard it too. What does that mean? It means they want what we have. The delegation arrived on schedule. 4 vehicles, military grade, diesel engines. They approached from the south, moving in formation. Vex Kendrick was tall, maybe 6'3", gray at the temples, wearing tactical gear that looked functional, not performative. He approached the airlock with his hands visible. I met him through the speaker system. Kyle Thorne, station manager, Vex Kendrick, FEMA. Appreciate you responding to the call. May I come in? One person, unarmed. He smiled. Cautious, smart. He unslung his rifle, handed it to one of his team, approached the airlock. I let him in. Lior stood behind me. Caleb watched from the control room. Vex looked around the station. Professional assessment. Not hostile. Just calculating. Impressive setup. Fully operational geothermal, water production. Shelter for... how many? 8. Could support more. Maybe 12. If supplies allowed. Supplies are why I am here. He pulled out a laminated map, spread it on the table. We are building a network, safe zones, trading routes, communication hubs. This station is strategically positioned, elevated, defendable, access to resources. We would like to integrate it into our coordination network. What does that mean? It means we provide security, supply runs, medical support in exchange. You serve as a relay point. Help us monitor the region, provide water and power to refugee groups we direct here. And if we don't want to integrate, his expression didn't change. That is your choice. But resources are finite. We are prioritizing communities that contribute to the collective good. Isolated holdouts, he shrugged. They are on their own. Lior looked at me. I saw the calculation in her eyes. The same one I was doing. We will think about it. Vex nodded. Fair. But don't think too long. Things are going to get harder. A lot harder. Having allies makes the difference. They left. I watched through the binoculars as their convoy disappeared south. He seemed reasonable, Lior said. He seemed practiced. What does that mean? It means he has done this speech before, multiple times, probably got it perfected. That night, I monitored the frequencies Vex had given me, heard convoy reports, supply distributions, radio chatter about resource consolidation and population management, and one transmission he probably didn't know I could hear. Station refusing integration. Continue monitoring. Report any external contact. Authorization level, Omega priority. Omega priority. Whatever that meant, I told Lior. She wanted to make contact again. Wanted to clarify intentions. I said no. We need to see what they actually do, not what they say they will do. We didn't have to wait long. A family showed up 3 days later. Parents, 2 kids. They had been walking from Tonopah. They were dehydrated, starving. The kids had frostbite. We took them in, fed them, got them warm. They told us about Vex's network. They showed up a month ago, the father said, offered help. Food, medicine, said we just needed to contribute. Contribute what? Whatever we had, fuel, tools, weapons. Said it was for the collective good. Anyone who refused. He looked at his kids. They took their rations. Said they had made their choice. So you left. So we ran. That night, I heard vehicles, not approaching, circling, staying just out of visual range, doing reconnaissance. Lior heard them too. They are watching us. Have been since Vex left. What do? We prepare. The scorpions got worse in March. The temperature was hitting 30 degrees during the day. The station's cooling system was failing. We had to start sleeping in shifts in the subsurface chamber where it was cooler. One of the brothers, Marcus, got stung during maintenance. The scorpion was massive, 20 centimeters. Stinger the size of a knife blade. The venom was different than before. Neurotoxic, caused seizures, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest. Lior tried to save him. Did everything right. CPR, rescue breathing. Nothing worked. He died in 17 minutes. We buried him outside. Shallow grave rocks piled on top to keep the scavengers away. His brother Thomas didn't speak for 3 days. That is when Vex came back. Different approach this time. No delegation. Just him, alone, unarmed, walking from the south. I watched him through the scope. He was carrying a white flag, improvised. Looked like a bedsheet tied to a stick. He stopped 50 meters out, raised the flag. I opened the external speaker. What do you want? To talk about the family you are harboring. What family? The Hendersons, from Tonopah. They are fugitives from a collective labor program. They owe the network 3 months' worth of resource contributions. They are refugees. They came here for help. They came here to avoid their obligations, which puts you in a difficult position. He lowered the flag. I am not here to threaten. I am here to clarify realities. You have resources, food, water, power. The network needs those resources. You can contribute voluntarily, or you can be designated non-compliant, and non-compliant communities don't receive protection. Protection from what? From raiders. From infected wildlife. From other survivors who aren't as reasonable as I am. He smiled. I am offering you a choice. Join us, help us rebuild, or stay isolated, and face the consequences. What consequences? Natural ones. Your supplies will run out. Your systems will fail. Your people will get sick. And when you need help, we will not be there. That is a threat. That is a forecast. He turned, started walking back, stopped after 20 meters. You have got 1 week. After that, This station gets designated priority resource extraction, which means we take what we need, with or without your cooperation. He left. I watched until he was gone. Lior was standing behind me. What are we going to do? What we have been doing. Survive. The week passed. Vex's people didn't come back, but we heard them. On the radio, coordinating movements, positioning assets, preparing for something. Thomas Marcus's brother came to me on day 6. I can fight. I know. No. I mean, I have fought Iraq 2 tours. I know tactics. I looked at him, at the grief still raw in his eyes. What are you proposing? We fortify, set up defensive positions, use the terrain, make it cost them more than it is worth. Or we leave, pack what we can carry, head into the back country, and abandon the station, the power, the water. You would last maybe 2 weeks out there. He was right. The desert was lethal without infrastructure, without shelter, without the systems I had spent months maintaining. So we fight. So we prepare to fight. Maybe they don't come. Maybe they decide it is not worth it. And if they do come, then we make them regret it. We spent 3 days preparing. Thomas and I mapped the approaches, identified choke points. The station sat on a plateau. Only one vehicle accessible route from the south. The other approaches were steep talus slopes, difficult, slow. We rigged the ventilation system to vent superheated steam on command. The thermal well could produce steam at 180 degrees Celsius. Channeled through the ducts, it would fill the subsurface tunnel approach in seconds. Caleb helped me fabricate barricades from sheet metal. Anne rationed the food more strictly. Lior prepared medical supplies. The Hendersons tried to leave, said they didn't want to be the cause of violence. I told them to stay, said we were doing this, regardless. On day 7, nothing happened. Day 8, day 9. On day 10, they cut the ventilation. Not physically. They just blocked the external intakes with something fabric, maybe, or dirt. The airflow dropped. Carbon dioxide levels started climbing. Temperature inside hit 35 degrees. They are trying to suffocate us, Lior said. They are trying to make us come out. I had maybe 12 hours before the CO became critical. I could clear the vents, but that meant going outside exposed. Thomas volunteered. Let me do it. I am trained for this. It is not your station. It is not about the station. It is about not letting them win. He went out at dawn, thermal rifle scope, body armor we had improvised from steel plates. He reached the first vent, started clearing it. The gunfire came from 800 meters, long-range professional. They had been waiting. Thomas made it back inside, barely. Took a round through the shoulder. The bullet had fragmented. Lior extracted the pieces, packed the wound he had live, but he couldn't fight. That night, they came for the well. I heard the pumps change pitch, looked at the monitoring system. Flow had stopped. Someone had shut off the main valve, which meant someone was at the wellhead. I grabbed the rifle, went outside. 3 people at the well, working by flashlight, disassembling the pump, taking the parts. I fired over their heads. Step away. They ran. Left the pump in pieces. I couldn't fix it in the dark, couldn't even assess the damage. I went back inside, locked the airlock. They took the impeller. I told Lior, without that, we cannot pump water. How long do we have? I looked at the storage tanks. 48 hours. Maybe 60 if we stop washing and cooking. She didn't ask what happened after that. We both knew. The next morning, Vex's voice came through the external speaker. Kyle, I know you are listening. Let's end this. Send out the Hendersons. Give us the impeller parts from your spare inventory. and we will leave you the well. You keep your station. We get compliance. Everyone lives. I didn't respond. Or we wait. You run out of water. You come out desperate, and we take everything. Your choice. I looked at Lior, at Thomas with his arm in a sling, at Caleb trying to look brave, at Anne holding Scout, at the Hendersons and their kids. We could give them the Hendersons, Lior said quietly. Number Kale number. We don't trade people. Then what do we do? I looked at the control panel, at the pressure gauges, at the thermal well that could produce enough steam to fill every pipe in this station. We use what we have. The siege broke that night. They came through the subsurface tunnel, the one access point I couldn't fully seal. Thomas had predicted it. Said they would try the hardest approach because we wouldn't expect it. I heard them on the pressure sensors. Movement in the tunnel, multiple people moving fast. I opened the steam valves, superheated steam at 180 degrees, channeled through every duct, every pipe, every opening that led to that tunnel. The pressure wave hit them in seconds. I heard screaming, then nothing. The temperature inside the station spiked 40 degrees, 45. The cooling system couldn't compensate. We had to evacuate to the surface. Stand outside in the freezing night while the steam vented. By dawn, the temperature had dropped. I went down to the tunnel. 3 bodies, burned, dead. I didn't recognize them, didn't want to. The well pump was intact. They had been carrying the replacement impeller, planning to install it after they had secured the station. I took it, installed it myself. Got the water flowing again. Vex's convoy was gone, either retreated or regrouping. I didn't know which, didn't care. We had survived, but the cost was written in the scorched walls of the subsurface tunnel. And the 3 graves Thomas and I dug at dawn. The fever came back in April. Not snake venom this time, just infection. The wound on my leg had never fully healed. The necrotic tissue was gone, but the scar tissue was fragile. Something bacteria, fungus, I don't know, got into it. My temperature hit 41 degrees, 42. I was hallucinating again. Seeing things that weren't there. Feeling things that couldn't be real. Lagcor kept me alive again. Cleaned the wound. Administered IV fluids. Monitored my vitals. But this time was different. This time I heard her talking to the others. Heard them debate whether to keep using resources on someone who might not make it. He is using water we cannot spare, someone said. Might have been Caleb. He built this place, Lior said. He kept it running. We owe him. We owe ourselves survival. I wanted to tell them to let me go. Wanted to say the math was clear. 1 sick engineer versus 8 healthy people. But I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Just lay there sweating and shaking while they decided my fate. They voted. I don't know the count, but I woke up 5 days later, still alive, still in the station. Lior was sitting next to me. Welcome back again. Why would you save me? Because you saved me first. Remember? I did remember. The knock on the airlock door, the choice to open it, the choice that had led to everything else. Thank you. Thank the others. They voted to keep you. Even when it was hard. I looked at her. What changed? We did, all of us. She helped me sit up. You taught us how to survive alone. Now we are teaching you how to survive together. The station wasn't mine anymore. Not really. It was ours. Collective. The systems I had maintained alone were now maintained by committee. Thomas knew the turbine. Caleb knew the heat exchangers. Lior knew the water system. Anne managed supplies. The Hendersons taught their kids to read using technical manuals. We weren't just surviving, we were building something. The radio transmissions changed in May. Not Vex anymore. Different voices. Younger. Less organized. Reports of Vex's network collapsing. Internal power struggles. Communities rebelling. The weight of control becoming unsustainable. I didn't feel vindication, just exhaustion. By June, the temperature was hitting 48 degrees. The station's cooling was at maximum. We lived in the subsurface chamber during the day, only came up at night. The scorpions had adapted. They were active in the heat now, hunting during the day. We found one the size of a dinner plate, translucent, glowing, beautiful, in a terrible way. We killed it, threw the body outside. Something ate it within an hour. A new transmission came in late June. Not FEMA, not Vex's network, something else. Attention all survivors. This is the Western Territories Council. We are establishing democratic governance zones. No forced contributions, no resource extraction, just cooperation and mutual aid. If you are interested, respond with your location and capabilities. Leor wanted to respond immediately. This is different. This is what we need. Maybe you don't trust anyone, do you? I trust you. I trust the people here. Everyone else needs to prove it. But I responded anyway. Gave our coordinates, our capabilities, our population. The reply came back within a day. Geothermal facility confirmed. We would like to visit. No demands, just dialogue. Will arrive in 7 days, looking forward to meeting you. They showed up on schedule. 3 people, unarmed, carrying gifts, food, medicine, seeds for planting. The leader was a woman, mid-40s, named Ava. She looked tired. Honest. We are not here to take anything, she said. We are here to offer something. Connection, trade, support. You keep your station, your autonomy. We just want to know you are out there, that we are not alone. We let them in. Showed them the systems, explained what we had built, what we had survived. Ava listened, asked questions. Didn't make promises she couldn't keep. We cannot protect you from raiders, she said. We cannot guarantee supplies. But we can share information, coordinate responses, help each other survive until things stabilize. And if they don't stabilize, she smiled, tired, real, then we will have tried together. That is more than most people get. They stayed 2 days, shared what they knew about the region, about the communities forming, about the challenges ahead. When they left, Leor asked me, "Do you trust them?" I don't know, but I am willing to find out. A year after the world ended, I stood outside the station at dawn. The temperature was already 30 degrees, would hit 45 by noon. The desert stretched away in every direction, empty, hostile, unforgiving inside. I could hear voices, Leor organizing the day's tasks, Caleb teaching the Henderson kids about pressure differentials, Anne working with Scout, Thomas checking the turbine. The station that had been my fortress had become our home. The isolation I would sought had become the connection I had needed. The radio crackled. Another transmission. Another group of survivors. Another request for information. Leor came outside, stood next to me. You going to answer, should I? That is not for me to decide anymore. She looked at the horizon. But I think you know the answer. I did. I went back inside, keyed the mic. This is Kyle Thorne at Geothermal Station Delta. We read you. Stand by for coordinates. The response came back immediately. Grateful, desperate human. I gave them what they needed. Then I looked at Leor. At the others gathering around the control panel. At the community we had built from necessity and choice. If you are listening to this, I said into the microphone, knowing others would hear, would record, would share. Remember this, fortresses aren't built to keep the world out. They are built to protect what matters inside. And what matters is each other, the systems, the rules, the organization. They are all tools, but the purpose is people. Never forget that. I switched off the transmitter, looked at Lear. We should plant those seeds Ava brought. In this heat, we will figure it out. We always do. She smiled. Together. Together the station hummed. The turbines spun. The water flowed. And somewhere beneath our feet, the earth itself provided the energy to keep going, to keep trying, to keep being human in a world that had tried to burn humanity away. We would survive. Not because we were strong, not because we were prepared, but because we had learned the hardest lesson, that survival alone isn't living, that the fortress means nothing without the people inside it. The geothermal record would show all of it. The temperatures, the pressures, the failures and repairs and adaptations. But it wouldn't show what mattered most, that we had stayed together when everything else fell apart, and that was enough.